The escalating tension between the United States and Iran is more than a distant headline. It's a slow-burning fire with global consequences. What happens between these two nations doesn't just stay in the Middle East. It can send shockwaves across continents, affecting millions of lives in ways both obvious and hidden. Decisions made in Washington and Tehran will ripple outward, affecting everything from gas prices to international security. When tensions rise, markets react instantly. Stock prices can tumble, and the cost of everyday essentials like fuel and food can spike. Even if you live far from the region, your wallet and your sense of safety can feel the impact. At the core are Iran's nuclear ambitions and decades of deep mistrust with the West. The world watches as Iran's nuclear program advances, raising questions and fears about what might come next. The US fears Iran is seeking nuclear weapons, which could destabilize the Middle East and trigger an arms race. Such a development would not only threaten regional rivals but could also draw in global powers, making the stakes even higher. Iran insists its nuclear program is peaceful, but this disagreement has led to cycles of sanctions and fragile negotiations. Each round of talks or sanctions brings new uncertainty, affecting economies and diplomatic relations worldwide. A miscalculation could disrupt the world's oil supply, especially through the vital Strait of Hormuz, sending energy prices soaring. This narrow waterway is a lifeline for global energy, and any conflict here could have immediate, far-reaching effects. Beyond economics, a wider conflict could unleash cyber attacks targeting power grids, banks, and transportation networks. The digital battlefield is just as real as the physical one, and ordinary people could find themselves caught in the crossfire of cyber warfare. These are not just abstract threats. They could impact daily life everywhere. From the price you pay at the pump to the reliability of your internet or electricity, the effects could be felt in homes and communities around the globe. As we explore this crisis, it's clear the distance between Washington and Tehran is much smaller than it seems. In our interconnected world, the choices made by leaders in these capitals can shape the future for all of us. Understanding this standoff is essential for anyone who wants to grasp the forces shaping our world. By paying attention, we can better prepare for the challenges and opportunities that may arise from this high-stakes confrontation. All eyes are on Geneva, where US and Iranian diplomats are locked in a tense, high-stakes negotiation. The two sides communicate indirectly, separated not just by a table, but by years of deep distrust and suspicion. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation, as the world waits to see if a breakthrough is possible. The US demands strict limits on Iran's nuclear activities, including detailed restrictions and intrusive inspections, in exchange for the promise of sanctions relief. American officials insist that only robust oversight can prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Iran, battered by years of crippling sanctions that have strained its economy and daily life, seeks not just relief, but full economic reintegration with the world. Iranian leaders also insist on their right to peaceful nuclear technology, a point of national pride and sovereignty. Both sides face intense political pressure at home. Any perceived weakness could spark fierce backlash from hardliners and critics. Every concession is scrutinized, and negotiators know their careers and reputations are on the line. Negotiators walk a tightrope, trying to craft a deal that satisfies both international and domestic critics. The challenge is to find common ground without appearing to give in. Every word and rumor from Geneva is scrutinized for signs of progress or collapse. The world's media, analysts, and governments hang on every update, knowing that even a small misstep could derail the talks. Success could bring cautious stability and new economic opportunities for millions. Failure risks a dangerous slide toward confrontation, with consequences that could ripple far beyond the region. The stakes are enormous, and the margin for error is razor-thin. The outcome of these talks could reshape alliances and alter the balance of power in the Middle East. The world is watching, knowing the outcome will shape the future of the Middle East and beyond. The hopes and fears of many rest on what happens in these rooms. The pressure on negotiators is immense, with every decision carrying historic weight. The next move could determine whether the world moves toward peace or slides into conflict. The heart of the US-Iran standoff is uranium enrichment, a process that can fuel reactors or build bombs. The US wants Iran to halt enrichment, arguing it's unnecessary for an oil-rich nation and too risky. Iran insists on its right to peaceful nuclear technology, citing international law, and refuses to dismantle its program. Years of alleged deception and covert research have hardened American suspicions. The 2015 nuclear deal tried to bridge this gap, but the US withdrawal shattered trust. Now, both sides demand ironclad guarantees the other won't break future agreements. This deadlock is rooted in technical details and a profound lack of trust. While diplomats talk, US and Iranian militaries remain on high alert. The US has deployed the USS Gerald R. Ford and other assets to the region, signaling readiness for action. Military planners prepare for everything from limited strikes to a broader campaign, knowing Iran's nuclear sites are heavily fortified. Iran responds with naval exercises and missile tests, showcasing its ability to threaten US bases and regional allies. The risk isn't just deliberate war, but an accidental clash. One misstep could trigger uncontrollable escalation. Both sides hope the other will back down, but the standoff is a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The military buildup adds pressure to negotiations and raises the stakes for everyone. The region sits on a knife's edge. For most people, a US-Iran conflict would hit hardest at the gas pump, but the impact wouldn't stop there. It could ripple through nearly every aspect of daily life, affecting your wallet in ways you might not expect. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most critical oil choke point. Up to 30% of global crude passes through daily. If tensions escalate, even a temporary closure or threat could disrupt this vital artery, sending shockwaves through energy markets worldwide. Even a brief disruption would send oil prices skyrocketing, raising costs for transportation, manufacturing, and food. Airlines, trucking companies, and factories would all feel the squeeze, and those costs would be passed on to consumers. Insurance rates for shipping would soar, and some companies might avoid the region entirely. This could slow down global trade, delay deliveries, and make imported goods more expensive or harder to find. Higher oil prices mean more expensive groceries, heating, and consumer goods. Everyday essentials from bread to electricity could see price hikes, straining household budgets. Inflation would ripple through economies, squeezing household budgets and threatening recession. As prices rise, wages may not keep up, making it harder for families to make ends meet. Developing nations reliant on imported energy would face severe crises. Power shortages, fuel rationing, and economic instability could become daily realities for millions. Even wealthy countries would see political and economic turmoil. Stock markets could tumble, governments might scramble to respond, and public frustration could spill into the streets. The economic weapon in this conflict targets ordinary citizens worldwide. No matter where you live, the effects could be felt in your daily expenses and financial security. What happens in the Gulf could hit your wallet at home, reminding us just how interconnected the global economy really is. In any US-Iran conflict, the digital battlefield would open immediately. Iran has developed sophisticated cyber capabilities, ready to target American and allied infrastructure. Financial systems, power grids, and energy networks are all vulnerable. Past attacks blamed on Iran have disrupted banks and infrastructure. Future strikes could be far worse. Imagine blackouts, frozen bank accounts, or paralyzed ports. Chaos far from any physical battlefield. The goal: create fear, confusion, and pressure on leaders and citizens alike. In a hyper-connected world, everyone is a potential target. Cyber war blurs the line between front lines and home fronts. Digital insecurity is now a reality of modern conflict. US-Iran tensions are rooted in decades of grievances and betrayals. The 1953 CIA-backed coup in Iran and the 1979 Islamic Revolution set the stage for lasting animosity. The Iran hostage crisis and years of proxy wars deepened the divide. US support for Iraq in the 1980s and accusations of Iranian-backed terrorism fueled mutual suspicion. The 2015 nuclear deal's collapse revived old wounds, reinforcing hardline views on both sides. Each side sees the other through a lens of historical mistrust, making compromise elusive. This legacy shapes every negotiation and fuels today's crisis. Israel watches US-Iran negotiations with deep anxiety, seeing a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. Israeli leaders doubt any deal that allows Iran to retain enrichment capabilities, fearing a future breakout. They also worry about Iran's missile arsenal and support for hostile proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. Israel insists any agreement must limit Iran's missile program and regional influence. The threat of a unilateral Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites is ever present. Such an attack could ignite a massive regional war, drawing in the US and others. Israel's security concerns add another volatile layer to the crisis. The stakes for the region and the world are enormous. The US-Iran standoff may seem distant, but its impact is personal and global. Oil price shocks, economic instability, and cyber attacks could disrupt daily life everywhere. Our reliance on digital systems makes us all vulnerable to conflicts far away. The deep mistrust between the US and Iran, rooted in history, makes solutions elusive. This crisis is a lesson in how past grievances shape present dangers. The risk of failed diplomacy is a conflict that could destabilize the Middle East and beyond. Ordinary people, not just politicians, will bear the consequences. In our interconnected world, no conflict is truly distant. The quest for peace in one region is a concern for us all. That's why this story matters.